man, it's good to have both you brothers. I appreciate y'all, taking time and really, Shawn, for you facilitating and making all this happen, man. I mean, it's happened in such a really short period of time. Getting introduced to Bradford, you guys picking up some works, and I just thought it could be really interesting to have a conversation with y'all for our audience. What you've been, filmmakers, noted filmmakers, and collectors. Oftentimes, the visual of the collector is not necessarily the black male, you know, and or black people in general. But I definitely wanted to, spend some time because I thought it's interesting that you both are, longtime friends and you're both collectors. You're both in the filmmaking space. So I said, man, let's dive in and kind of unpack this a little bit. So I appreciate both of you for your time. I was looking at your bios, and particularly Bradford. Just wanted to give a shout out to the pieces that you've done, Selma, and one of my favorite movies was actually A Most Violent Year. Like that was one hell of a film, man. And can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what would be easy, Shawn? What should people know about your brother Bradford? And then I want to do a vice versa, just real brief. Bradford, what should people know about Shawn?
Man, Bradford, sensitive, cancer, father, intensely private, I would say as a human being, just like, those are the things I would say off the top of my head, like private, cancer, sensitive, spiritual, father, you know what I mean? Yeah. And husband, I think off the top.
Yeah.
You get the ones.
Genius.
Yeah, go ahead. What you gonna say?
Genius, I would say genius.
Oh, nah, neurotic, probably.
And Bradford, what should our audience know about Shawn?
Oh man, again, he's sensitive, Gemini. You know what I mean? He's like half crazy, half genius, half sensitive, half roughneck.
Okay.
He's like, he's my big brother. You know what I mean? So for me, he's like teacher, master teacher. For what that's worth for our generation. He's inspiring. He's got such an infectious energy. His laugh is epic. You know what I mean? It just melts everybody. You know what I mean? He's an anchor. You know what I mean? Like in our community here in Baltimore, he's like, he's one of our anchors. He's just loving. You know what I mean? So generous. And a lot of things that I wish I could do that are not part of my, social genetic disposition, Shawn makes up for it. You know what I'm saying? So
vice versa.
I feel so blessed that like he's my neighbor, like for real, like only like 15 doors down a block away. You know what I mean? I feel so blessed that over the years he and I have got closer and closer. We used to have like just very limited crossings.
Mm-hmm.
But he always was so fascinating to me because the brother's like working on his 5th career, and everything he does with extra proficiency and excellence and mastery, So it's just beautiful to be in this iteration to watch him and crazy enough, everything that he's done before, you know what I mean, was inspiring for me as a young person trying to like find my way as an image maker. I didn't know he was in the background doing it, but once I realized that him, then it was like, oh man. So just to be able to watch him as a cinematographer, and just be able to stand with him in the same time is just, it's a blessing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing, and
you gonna tell us about you, brother?
Yeah.
Oh, so
grab yourself.
I'm 48, been doing art since a shorty, like so many other people since the age of 5. One of those cats at school really wasn't for me. I had got a partial scholarship to the Memphis Academy of Art. And I went to 2 classes, bro. Like I went to 2 classes and I was like, this ain't for me. The structure of school wasn't for me. And besides that, I remember I was working because they didn't have dorms. I was working off campus to pay for my housing. And I was working for Domino's at the time, putting in some crazy hours, assistant manager. And man, I got a check for $475 after 2 weeks and thought I was balling. You know what I'm saying? I was like, man, I was like, later for school, whatever, and just started working, man. But thankfully, I had left Memphis and found myself in Southern Illinois and was introduced to a brother that was a community art activist and undergraduate at Southern Illinois University. And so he basically pulled me back into the fold. He invited me to his studio, put some paintbrushes back in my hand. And I never forget, like Najjar, he would be like talking about, this life that we could live as an artist. Like his goal was to, get his degree, become, a tenured professor, and he's achieved that. I mean, he's got one hell of a story. And I would listen, and man, I didn't know, I just found somebody cool to hang around with. And then, next thing you know, one thing led to another, started to exhibit, started to show work. My wife and I, we opened up a small gallery in our hometown of Arkansas, and, during this whole time I was working in sales as a professional salesman, selling various products and working for different companies. And we always did well. So we created space for artists to show, and then, our friends and myself. And then one day, in 2004, after a run for city council that didn't pan out, I was like, there's got to be more to this. I've been successful with everything else that I've done. What would happen if I focused solely on my art? And then that's when the move to Atlanta took place, And, one thing led to another. After doing shows for 5 years, traveling the country, meeting collectors, selling work, was sitting around a dinner table in Chicago with some other collectors and artists. And we was all talking about the same thing, like a representation, in media when it comes down to African-American artists, there's not a central place where we could connect and gather. And I caught this bright idea to start a publication. And man, and you're talking about a cat that graduated on the curve in English. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. You know what I'm saying? but man, lo and behold, it resonated with people because there was such a void, and we just continued to grow and work to piece this puzzle, man. Just find things that we're interested in, things that we're passionate about, and just put all our energy and effort, and a lot of creative and ancestors just kind of move us and shape us in terms of what I think what we could use it in terms of the culture. Now, we're not the end all be all, but I think we do a relatively good job, and we're a very unique company in the things that we do. Been married 27 years to my wife, so I'm kind of old school, and that's about it.
Put in more. I thought I put in time, bro. You put in the time. My
Lord. How much time you get? How much time you get?
We about to hit 21 years, but man, 27.
Oh,
yeah, that's
what's up.
That's fire.
And so one thing I'm interested with y'all being filmmakers. I was wondering, like, do these brothers? Because with film, I would think that to make a film, you got to see so many different things, so many different angles. Like, you're looking at what's in front of you differently than just the general public. Does that impact, looking at art? Like, I'm just wondering, do you see art differently than most people?
That's interesting. I don't think so. I would say,
you don't think so?
No.
Okay.
I just think for me, I just look at whatever I think of things in kind of in a Japanese Shinto kind of way, where objects have souls, and I fall in love with objects all the time. It could be a piece of ceramic, art, or it could be a chair, or a photograph, or a painting, whatever. But I don't think it's an eye that is informed from looking at the cinematography. I don't think so.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, now I think, I mean, I feel the same way. I think, we cinematographers, we're Black cinematographers, so the Black really informs everything. And so, I remember, my grandmother in Chicago, my dad's mom used to have this like Venetian landscape like painting, and it was you probably seen them. She's the South Side Chicago. You plugged them in, and behind it was like a chaos theory. They had this like fractal lights behind it. I don't know what it was. If it was like mirrors, they were mirrored, and they had these lights behind it. It was like a scenic from Venice. And there was like, whenever I think about that piece of art, it was, you know, from my grandmother, you know, from my grandparents, it was both aspirational, you know what I'm saying? Because they were very simple. They're from Arkansas, you know what I'm saying? Southside Chicago. My grandfather was a cook, but also a preacher. My grandmother was in labor, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, really kind of stayed at home. You know, for them, it was like, it wasn't, their disposition to the piece is basically the same as ours. You know what I mean? They liked it because it spoke to them, but it was also a sense of aspiration that they understood aesthetics and design, and they got a feeling from it, you know. Yeah. Versus my mom's parents, a little bit more affluent, mortician, teacher, Louisville, Kentucky. You know, they had means so they could collect. So they had all types of stuff in the house. You know what I mean? All types of pieces in the house. I don't know if you know Walter Shannon in Louisville. He's got like a gallery.
I know Walter and Kathy and them. Come on,
man. Come on, man. That's like, yo, Walter, yo. Yeah. Anyway, I go all day about Walter, Kathy, but yeah, you know what I mean? Like my Walter and my grandparents, you know what I'm saying? That's what they bought from, and they bought other stuff. They traveled all over the world. They had like African art and stuff that they got from the continent. You know what I mean? They had, you know, stuff that Walter gave, you know, introducing them to young artists.
Right.
Around Louisville, they also had the classics, you know what I'm saying? They didn't have like real Roman Beards, but they had like Prince, and then my uncle, who was an artist, you know, his sketches as well. So for them, it was a little different, you know what I mean? It was only different in the sense that they had more, but their entryway into it was different, you know what I mean? So economics, you know, clearly played a part, you know what I mean? But reason why I'm saying all to say that, like, the Black part of it is the thing that for me is really important, and to kind of demystifies it, because what it basically does is that as a cinematographer, it doesn't inform that, because, you know, cinematography is just an expression of culture. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't inform my worldview. It doesn't inform the way I move in the world. My Blackness does. And so when I think about that way, it's broad paint strokes, but I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm okay painting it with a broad paint stroke, because I know that basically Black people love culture. You know what I'm saying? That's our lifeline. That's why, only reason why we're able to survive the situation that we're in now, you know what I mean? All over the diaspora, whether it be post-colonialism, imperialism, post-slavery, Jim Crow, whatever. Our culture is what we have, and we have attachment to objects, because objects are things that we use to help us through our social rite of passage. You know, objects are things that we believe in, are imbued with a certain kind of energy that protect us from forces that do not have our interest at hand. So I think for me, now as a cinematographer, I look at it, you know, I look at it from a point of culture. You know what I mean? I look at it from what, like Shawn said, what speaks to me. You know what I mean? I think I love the fact that when you look at it that way, it's so much more egalitarian. You know what I mean? It's like, for the working class Black family, you know what I mean, that don't have the means to collect like we do, or the higher earning, you know, the working class and poor Black families that don't have the means that we do but still collect, and then the high earning, wealthy, middle class Black folk who collect as well. Like, when you look at it through that lens, like, we all responding to the same thing. That's a lot of shit for me to say, that we all respond to the same thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, as a cinematographer, man, actually, you know, I understand. I think I wouldn't dare speak for Shawn on this, but I kind of in a way would say that, because I know from a lot of conversations we have, it's really about how can the art inform the cinematography, because cinematography is such an art form that has filmmaking in itself is such a young art form, and it's an art form that's prospered at the expense of Black people. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think Shawn and I are attracted to figurative art. You know what I'm saying? Figurative art, because it checks the box around representation that Black filmmaking has not been able to achieve at such a scale. You see what I'm saying? You know, we're so fascinated with Carrie Marshall as cinematographers, because it's such a feat to try to get that density and complexity, and be allowed to bring that density and complexity into the images. And there's a space for it where people be into it, where they accept it, where they understand it. It's so much more of a question in the film context versus the art world, where it's like unapologetically, Black people's moment. You know what I mean? Like nobody telling us what is and what isn't. When you render a Black figure on a canvas, it is everything that it is there in front of you. So I would say it's actually, for me, it's the other way around. It's like I'm trying to be as bold and as significant as the Black artist in cinematography. You know.
What's who's the brother that did the night painting? The English.
Chris O'Feely.
Yeah, Chris O'Feely, man. I can't tell you how influential his night paintings were. When the first time I saw that, the way they were exhibited. I saw them at the New Museum in New York, and they were just the room was dark. You could barely see the paintings, and you had to really, you had to go into the painting. Like, is there something in that painting? And you can see this really latent figure of this Black person in a jungle at night, and it was like, you know, incredible rendering of, you know, a memory really of that. Maybe, you know, I mean, I know his family's from Trinidad, and one of his Caribbean, but I think like a memory of seeing Black people in the middle of a jungle at night, and sort of remembering, you know, remembering these things. But I think cinematography has a, you know, that's one thing we do, you know, is you know, for me, my practice is remembering always, you know, just like, I don't come from a past of artists, you know, a family of artists, or wasn't a lot of, there was art in my house, but it was very utilitarian, you know. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, my aunts and uncles and my mom, we had pieces that they loved, the prints and stuff like that. Like, you know, those velvet astrological pieces, and all that 70s stuff. It was all that stuff. It was always a Black body. You know, I remember like, it was always like a lot of nudity. It felt like, it was always like Black, really dark Black bodies. Like, it was like that 70s era, you know, where, you know, the Black body was really present in art, you know. And it was beard and prints and those kind of things too. I remember when I was really little, I remember a moment when I was very, very little, and my cousin, most of my cousins are 10, 15, 20 years older than I am, because my mom was in her 30s, you know, and her sisters and brothers had children younger. And I remember there was a photograph of Malcolm X, you know, and I might have been 3 or 4. And I remember my older cousin saying, "Do you know who that is?" And I remember just like, and I remember my first impression, because he had the gun, he was out the window. So my first impression wasn't positive. You know, my first impression was like, why does he have that gun? Is he a violent person? And I remember asking him, so why is he going to shoot somebody? And he was like, no, well, yeah, he's, you know, but he's important. You need to know who that is. And it struck me that just that image of him looking out the window with a gun, you know, what I came to know in junior high school when I read the biography was different. But I remember how that struck me, like I was a little bit afraid of him. That's when I saw Malcolm X's picture.
You know, unlike y'all, I didn't grow up with art in the home. You know, I remember some black velvet things, but for some reason I remember the Matador. You know, I don't know if you saw the Matador and the bull. You know, yeah, we had that, and you know, oddly enough, I grew up with an image of the Kaaba and Mecca, the pilgrimage. You know, on a rug that my stepdad had on the wall, and I never knew what it was, and it wasn't until I became an adult that I realized that, you know, I grew up with this object right here, and that's probably the only, you know, art, you know, I mean, it wasn't not necessarily art, but it's just interesting what you grew up with and what you don't grow up with and what you can come to later, I guess. I mean, and I know I actually got kicked out of a gifted and talented art class when I was in junior high school. I'm interested to know, you know, y'all school age years, like, did y'all take art? Were you introduced to photography at that time, or, you know?
Nah, not for me. It came late. You know what I mean? That came so late for me, you know. Funny enough, on a little the Kaaba, anyway. The Kaaba for me, for many reasons, so important. Actually, it keeps appearing in some of my own artwork, you know what I mean? So it's funny how that's such a pervasive object in Black people's consciousness, you know what I mean? Because again, it goes, I think that really centers what we're just talking about. It's like something that's seemingly neutral in terms of its sacred nature is also informed for Black people, you know what I mean, for Muslims, and Islam is also the most gorgeous representation of everything, you know what I mean? It's all encompassing of the Abrahamic order, you know what I'm saying? Like it tells a whole journey for us. And because it's inside of it is arguably a meteor that fell out of the sky, and he built a shrine around it, you know what I mean? It has all those things. It's a little tangent, but so that really was hit me. Man, I tried, you know, my parents put me in little summer programs where I would try to like paint and draw, but I was still inevitably be coming out with stick figures. And obviously, you know what I mean? Then nobody in Louisville, Kentucky, nobody knew how to even contextualize the stick figure for me and say, keep moving with that. You know what I mean? Everybody was like, you know, color inside the lines, you know what I'm saying? The hard trace and then color inside the lines. So yeah, I could do all this stuff like technically I was told to do, but I didn't understand like what it was I was making at the time was like, is me, you know what I'm saying? That's everything that it is me, uniquely me. And my parents didn't know how to encourage me to like pursue that. So I didn't, man. And actually I wanted to be a writer. And, you know, I didn't do well on standardized tests. You know what I mean? I got to Howard by like sheer accident. Not accident. It was all in divine. It was all in divine order, like divine order. Like, because based on how I got there, it was so crazy. I wasn't even supposed to go there.
Howard is everything, though.
Howard was everything.
Howard is everything.
Howard was everything. Like, meeting Hailey turned everything around for me. And even then, I didn't really look at filmmaking as an art form. You know, I looked at it as an industry. It was blue collar. It wasn't until Hailey that I realized that it's an art form. You know what I mean? And that you can't rest on your laurels because it's an art form, and because you don't make in isolation, you make as community, and community is everything in filmmaking. So, and in life. So I didn't really so it didn't really come to me, man. I can't really say I even thought of art or being an artist, or I even explored art, or really looked. I even have a coffee table books. You know, my grandparents had them, but I didn't even have like reference coffee table books until I was 22, 23. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't living the art life. I didn't collect. I didn't have any pieces. Like I didn't have anything then. I was still not quite sure what it was. So all of this for me is like later in life, you know what I mean? I really understood.
Yeah. You know, and so maybe one day we can have a talk about, you know, you talk about that Howard experience. It sounded like there was more to it. I'm going to say this real quick. And I never shared this in the interview. Like I spent one semester at HBCU at Knoxville College in Morristown, right?
Morristown, right.
So my cousin, I'm back home in Arkansas. My cousin say, hey man, you know, you need to come to Morristown with us. I said, man, I ain't even applied. He said, yeah, you gotta apply, just show up, right? Hey, so I ended up going with him. I had two of my bigger cousins there. So I show up and he introduced me to the dean, right? And the dean like, well, you know, we could get you in, but you know, you got any money? I said, well, no, I ain't got no money, dean. He said, you got $100? No. I said, no. He said, you got 50? He was giving me the shakedown. You know what I'm saying? Right. Hey, but I end up.
That's Black college, bro.
Wow.
That's Black college.
Yeah, but I got in, man. And the one thing, like I bounced around to a few schools, you know, I mean, I do a semester here, do a semester there, but I will say, you know, it's nothing like that community, and being at that HBCU was like any other experience. Even though for me it was only one semester, it was way different than any of the other schools that I had went to, and I still got fond memories of it. I remember, you know, shout out to Dr. Fuller, who, you know, was a sociologist there and well known on campus. But yeah, man, that's I can only imagine what it must have been like at Howard to do the, you know, 4 years or 6, Shawn. So
8 years.
He said 6. Why are you talking about me?
No, I'm teasing, bro. I'm teasing.
I finished school.
On time.
I wasn't on time. It was 4.5, actually.
Yeah. And this, you know, indulge me for 1 second. I don't even know if this gonna make sense. So I was thinking about Ta-Nehisi Coates talking about, for every dollar that white America has, Black people got, you know, 5 cents or 10 cents. I think it's 5 cents or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so my question is, as it relates to particularly like us visual artists, like, should we be pricing our work on a curve? Like, should we have some kind of pricing structure, kind of like affordable housing, so Black people, so the work could be a little bit more accessible to people who don't have necessarily the resources? I I mean, I don't know if something like that could actually work in the real world, asking people of means to pay a little bit more. But, you know, I struggle with it because I think about, you know, as a creator that's creating all the time, like I got works that are just sitting in storage, you know, somebody could be enjoying it, whether it's an institution or a young collector, you know. So I don't know. As creatives, we're constantly producing material. And oftentimes, you know, that material doesn't necessarily reach um, you know, the public as it could because we're still working to find the balance and the dynamic within the marketplace, you know. So
Plus, it's yes, these houses that we're always living in, you know, like, you know, somebody like an Amy Sherrill or Titus Kaphar, they're in a certain house now. You know what I mean? They're
yeah. And oftentimes they're not, you know, people don't gravitate to it until it reaches a certain point. I can give you an example. Like I had a show, and I bring this up all the time when I'm talking to people, but I had a show at the Columbus Museum in 2014, which is where Amy's from, Columbus, Georgia, right? And I had somebody that inboxed me and said, hey, you know, the museum should give Amy a show. And so I looked at Amy's work and fell in love with it. And I called her up and talked to her about what she, you know, what was going on. I could help move some pieces, this and that. At that time, her price points were $8,000 to $9,000 for her work. And she told me a story about a collector, a noted collector, and that, you know, of African American art. Won't say no names. Don't want to put them on blast. But she had tried to get them to buy the work, and they was like, "Oh, your price is like Bearden prices." You know, now granted, it's Bearden prints, you know, but that same piece today. I mean, here we are 5-6 years later, and she's had a piece sell at auction for over $1 million.
her pieces are going for $2 million now.
$2 million.
Now,
Okay.
that piece that Titus that got sold for $1.2 million.
Yeah.
The collector bought that piece for $12,000.
Mm-hmm.
And Titus don't see a penny from that auction, right? So that's the seller's money, you know. So he accrued 10 times the value of something that Titus got $12,000 for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting. It's very interesting in this whole market thing with black creative art. It's interesting.
I think that's the conundrum of it all is like it's always about, you know, money and labor for us, you know what I mean? So that's first and foremost. It's kind of, on one hand, it's kind of unfair for us to ask these artists whose work in the greater scheme of Black wealth, in the greater scheme of like American culture, is worth more than what they asked for, right? So Titus's $12,000 piece is probably already worth $1 million even when he made it, you know. Or, you know, Khalif, when you make a piece, it's probably worth 10 times as much as what you asked for it, you know what I mean? In the scheme of like our wealth, economic, you know, reality in this country, you know, what we produce is literally the foundation of everything that exists here. So in that sense, it's worth everything, you know. But we have such a contentious relationship with economics because of the way it's tethered to our bodies and our labor and how we've been commodified, you know. So that all that idea kind of is woven into everything we do, you know. So, you know, on one hand, you know, yes, I wish that Black art was more accessible to the masses, but also at the same time, when I think about the individual artist and the output and what goes into making a piece, then and what people's aspirations are for themselves based on their own current condition or whatever their story may be, let's say, for instance, somebody like Titus, you know, then, you know, my dream is that he gets everything he needs. You know what I mean? Like, my only dream is that, you know, that $1.2 million that person, the collector received from the person who bought it from him, he or she, that Titus get at least 50%, 60% of that sale. You know what I mean? That's only, but, you know, again, we're not dealing with fairness. We're dealing with capitalism. Capitalism is not about fairness. It's about due diligence and manifest destiny. And so in that sense, it's real complicated. I do think though, you know, one thing that's true about us is that we really are flexible and reasonable, and we always have to deal with the ebb and flow of what majority cultural people put in front of us. You know what I mean? You know, marketplace is always changing, and Black people are always trying to find a way to, those of us that are interested, trying to find a way to secure our own economic security, our own autonomy, our own sovereignty, and economics is tied to it. So, you know, in that sense, I do think that it is the artist's duty to look at the marketplace, right? Look at what it is, not only for themselves, but for Black people. And let's say, for instance, Titus, and realize and think in that. And in that sense, I think we do have to be on a sliding scale. You know, we have to move and flow based on what is going on in the marketplace, so that we can start to have this conversation about Black wealth. Like, honestly, right now, some of the most wealthiest individuals in our community are, in this time right now, Black artists. You know what I'm saying? The Black artist is prospering.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? The Black artist is honestly, that's what it's, there ain't nothing else right now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows it. You know what I'm saying? That's why people are paying premium for it. And so right now is a sweet spot for the Black artist, and all this negotiation going on in the background about the sale of art being more equitable is already at play too. So at a certain point, Black artists are going to starve the system of Black art until that becomes more equitable. And that people are going to have to pay, break people off properly. You know what I mean? People are going to have to be. Imagine Carrie. Just imagine what Carrie, how much money Carrie has lost that on. You know what I'm saying? Imagine how much. The list goes on and on. You know, he just popped to the top of my head. I go on forever on that one. Many other artists. So I think it is a responsibility of the Black artists to be part of the ebb and flow. Number one, not only for their own psychological health, you know what I'm saying? Because I know what it is to be, and I'll tell a story of why. I'm not going to belabor it, but like, I know what it is for your own mental health to be able to like make your work accessible to your people, but I also know your own mental health is tied to like your own economic, fiscal responsibilities. So I think we have to be flexible, as we always are, and just be in the ebb and flow of how the marketplace is determined. And this is actually a good time for us to determine what the marketplace is. You know what I mean? Like, we have to set up our own crypto art thing so that we can have our own internal thing. And, you know, when you Titus's piece, if he gives a piece for less than what it's worth based on the Sotheby's marketplace, and it's better for the Black family or the Black individual, the Black person who has it, because then that turns into a piece of wealth for that family later. So I think it's important for us to like think about it holistically as well, even though I know it's not hard to do when you're trying to like make a come up, build a house, build family, whatever. You know, I know, you know what I mean? I know like Emar, like one of the first pieces that my wife and I bought was a piece from Emar Hutchins, you know what I'm saying? And Shawn and I have I have a relationship with Emar from generations. Our grandparents were friends together in the movement. And Shawn went to Morehouse with Emar. And, you know, Emar was like a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? He was always an artist, but he was also, you know, a lawyer as well. And
restaurateur,
the whole nine. So when he decided to be an artist,
in my life.
yeah, just like one of the most amazing, he decided to be an artist, and now he's doing these large scale paintings. You know what I mean? Like we commissioned it for one amount, but by the time he finished it, his value in the marketplace was so much higher that he had to charge us more. And it wasn't easy, but we understood that it made sense based on the marketplace. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, one of the things I know Emar is struggling with is like, how do you make it more accessible to Black people? You know what I mean? How do you make it more accessible? And I think that's his mental health. You know what I'm saying? Forget the economics of it all. He's centering his mental health right now so that he can be, you know, he can see it's not enough to go to Martha's Vineyard in the summer and see Black people scooping up art. You know what I mean? It's not enough to go to Sag Harbor and see those kinds of Black people scooping up art. It's not enough for us who have, you know, Shawn and I make a good wage. We make a really good wage. We make more money than 99.9% of Black people. You know what I'm saying? We make a good wage, and it's still not easy to buy art because we don't have enough cash like white folk. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you know what I'm saying, it's still important for to make it accessible, man. Because it goes back to our original thing. It's an object, right? And that object generates spirit, energy. My children, man, you should see when they look at Emar's paintings or they look at AJ's prints, you know what I'm saying? They stare at it because there's so much they're learning from it. The piece is talking to them, you know what I mean? That's worth more than what I paid for it. You know what I mean? You know, it's worth way more than what I paid for it. So just imagine Titus 2.0 that's in Oakland right now. You know what I'm saying? And one more story. Not trying to name drop, but just a funny thing happened to me 2 weeks ago. I was out in the Sag Harbor working with Carrie Mae Williams. I collect a lot of art through art trade, because I don't have the dough. I got my work. I got cinematography that I can give you, and then we can collect, and I get a piece of art trade. That's how I got Carrie's. That's how I got AJ's. That's how I got, you know, Dina Law, whatever. So I was out doing work with Carrie, and doing his work so I can get a piece of Carrie's. And Khalil came to town. Noah's brother came to town, and he wants to do something with him. And he was like, "Yo, meet me at this house."
Mm-hmm.
He like, "Meet me at this house in Sag Harbor, and we'll go from there." So I roll up, and this is a crazy, beautiful house. And of course, clearly it's a Black person's house. I'm like, "Oh man, it's Black people." There's a boat sitting on a cliff that says has Africa, you know. So I go in the house, and when I come in the house, talking about Titus, as soon as I turn the corner, I see Khalil and a young brother holding up a Titus piece, and they're trying to like remount it on the wall. And I'm like, and as I start perusing the room, I'm like, there's a Carrie Marshall behind me, Simone Lee over here. There's a David Hammond like on the floor. You know what I'm saying? I keep looking around. I see there's a white guy, I can't remember his name. He does like stuff with shells. He's got stuff like that. And then I turn around the corner, and at the end of a hallway, there's a huge like 5x7 Dina Lawson. And then H.C. Hudgens comes around the corner. It's his house. I'm like, hold on, I'm at H.C. Hudgens. I'm at H.C. Hudgens' house. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that moment.
We
for
have
me,
to do it. That's how we have to do it. We have to do. He probably did a lot of bartering.
That's it. And that moment for me became so interesting because I was like,
I'm about to follow up on my Sanford bartering.
It had that moment had two things. The ease of it all was beautiful to me because HC got so much work. He respects all of it, but he also handles it differently because for him, it's everywhere, right? So the way they were handling the print, there were no white gloves. Niggas ain't no white gloves on. They were like, yo, come over here. And he had a little hammer and a little brass thing from Home Depot. He had the expensive mounting thing. He was just like, normalize it. And I walked in, all the other G's in the room were just like, it's a Titus. But when I walked in, I was like, wow. So I really respected the normalization of it in the room by people in the room.
That's what it is.
And then me, who came in the room, who was all inspired, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. And then HC comes around the corner. He's just a humble, old, crazy dude. You know what I'm saying? Who had money, understood what art was way, way back in the day when he was collecting and working with Dave. And now he's got one of the biggest collections. And he's known, you know what I'm saying? As you know, we all know he's known for like, when everybody was struggling with cheddar, he was the one that was breaking cats off. Not when they were expensive, but when they were worth $5, $10. You know what I'm saying? Because he's believed in stuff. So I think we got the model. We just need to duplicate it and make it real for ourselves.
So my family, I was at my family reunion the other day, and I don't know if they do this in other Black in your family, or because Black people will call, like my cousin saw a photograph of mine from Mexico City and was like, oh, this looks like a picture. This is a picture. Like, you know, this looks like almost like a picture. And I'm like, well,
it is a picture.
But she, in her mind, paintings are pictures. She was like, this is like a picture. She was talking about painting. Like, this is like a picture. So I don't know, some Black people will call.
But also too, paintings. But you know what that also, you know what's funny about that too? Also, the other meta of that moment goes back to what I was saying. Black people understand art. They understand their connection to something that feels, they understand, they understand what an artist is and the role the artist plays in the community, right? Yeah. So when they see a piece of that you've done, they don't see you as like, they don't see you yet as the griot or the oracle in the community. They don't see you there yet. You see what I'm saying? So when they see your work, they say, oh, this is a real picture. They see it as, oh, this is real. They don't just be playing around no more. You like a real artist now. And that's a whole different association they have to have with you, which is the reason why I always saying,
he said that.
It's a real picture.
Like a real picture.
Or somebody say, man, I went to see your film. You made a real movie. And it's like, because they thinking about things. Yeah. So Black, that's what I would say, you know, Black people, I remember at Hailey, man, going to see Tezard, which is one of Hailey's more difficult films to watch. It ain't for everybody. And I had heard all the stories about like Sam Kofa. Yeah, I remember I heard all the stories about Sam Kofa. Like when I went to see Sam Kofa, it was in Hyde Park in Chicago. And it was like, it was clear that, you know, everybody there was there, either sent there by a church or needed to be there, or families that, you know what I mean, it was part of that thing.
That's all.
Like, yeah. And Tezon DC, you know, all the niggeratis were there, you know what I mean? They came to write about it and see it. And they were all, you know, came up in their African garb and they were all doing their thing. And then, but the people in the front row were these old sisters with their canes. Terrence has actually heard me tell this story to somebody before. You know, they'd sing with their canes. And by the time 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours of Haile Garima movie is done, like you exhausted on every level, spiritually, intellectually, everything. You thirsty. You just like, feel so full, but you're still thirsty, and you also realize there's so much therapy. And I turned around and all the niggerattis, they were gone. They were not even there. The people that were left were the old sister from the community. You know what I'm saying? Who stayed for the Q&A, engaged him, challenged him. You know what I'm saying? These ain't sisters that are like, they don't know nothing about no Tarkovsky, B. They don't know nothing about no Godard. They don't know nothing about no Bergman. They know Tyler Perry, and they know supporting Black art. They know I go see Tyler Perry because he Black. I go see this. I heard this African man showing this film, and I'm going to go see this film because I'm going to support this Black artist. You know what I'm saying? And they came. That's basic. They came and they were like, young man, I saw my grandson in that film. I know it's like my grandson got caught up and he lost his mind too. And They had so many questions that were relevant. So we need the art. We need the art. It needs to be in our hands because we know what to do with it. These white folk, some of them may, but you know what I'm saying? There is no white equivalent of A.C. Hutchins. There is no, you know what I'm saying? There is no equivalent, you know what I mean? Because his relationship to it is so much deeper, you know what I'm saying? So we need more of that though. We need more of that in our community because that's going to secure our community, you know, our collective wealth, you know?
Man, I heard, so the other thing I learned yesterday was crazy. Titus is doing a documentary on this elder. He's like 90-some years old, art collector in Harlem. If he was an actor, if you read his bio, he would have been Paul Robeson. Like, I think he was like first of his class at Harvard, you know what I mean? Like a brother, writer, like Wall Street titan of his like first Black Wall Street dude, and collected art and was like, and you know, now he's belligerent, but you know, in the background, he's got this frame and he's sitting on the couch, mad belligerent with his Crocs on. And Titus literally having.
I wonder if that's Russ.
Oh. What's his last name?
Is that Russ Goins?
It must be.
Okay.
Bald head.
Dark skin.
Yeah, that's him. Probably. I'm not sure. I can't remember my guy's type. But anyway, Titus doing a documentary on him. And he was having an argument because he had a couple of. So anyway, does Russ have a relationship with my man Bearden back in the days?
Yep. Real tight. Yep.
So apparently, this brother Russ used to bathe Romar. Like when he was sick. Like he housed him, took care of him, bathed this man. You know
I know this brother. I know this brother. I know who this brother is.
You know the brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing a little piece on him. And in the piece, they're having a full-on argument, him and Titus, because Russ started, I guess Russ was touching original Roman Bearden piece with his hand. And Titus was like, yo, you can't touch that with your hand. He's like, these are my arguments. They were having an argument. He's like, yo, what's the glove? He's like, handle art. There's like a full argument. He went and got his gloves. I know what the fuck I'm doing. I know how to handle them. He's like, Titus like, yo, you can't put your fingerprints on that piece. He was tight. And like jumped in the frame and everything. He's behind the camera. It was just a funny moment. But, you know, going back to collectors and Black people who've been collecting, this dude had Charles White's behind him, like original Charles White.
Yep. That's Russ.
His collection is stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a misnomer, man. Like, it hurts me when I hear people who are uninformed talk about Black people don't collect. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many Black people, so many Black collectors that I know around the country. I just don't think that, you know, we get our due. They don't get their due. And even for the ones that don't collect, you know, like, you know, this blue chip or market made work, you know, they're collecting something. You know, they're engaged with work that's around them. They might even have some knickknacks. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But they engage in wherever they get in, where they fit in, man. And so, you know, it's later for the elitism that pervades this whole art market, man. I love it when it's organic. I love to see people's eye, you know, what have you collected? What's your relationship with the artist? And particularly for the ones that collected them early. Like anybody with money can go and acquire what they want. But you know, tell me about the cat that bought that Titus when it was 12,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
or that Amy Sherrill when it was 5,000 or 1,500. You know,
or Khalif.
Or Khalif, yeah.
Or Khalif. Or you. Right. I mean, or you. Honestly, if it wasn't for Shawn, bro, I wouldn't even be. I'm surrounded by all these cats. Check out these young cats. check out these cats. And then it started making sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I would have never got the Khalif if it wasn't for Shawn, bro. Like Shawn is my teacher. Shawn is the equivalent right now. Honestly, right now, Shawn is the equivalent of the Peggy K. Fritz and the AC Hutchins. You know what I'm saying? Like in our time, this brother is really collecting. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are really collecting. You're not waiting for it to be out of, and that's a whole other conversation anyway. That probably is not for us anyway, and maybe that's the blessing of it all, because what it does is it sobers us up on who we are, what we can afford, and what the real conversation is about. And it also sobers up the Black artist who also has to now wrestle with the blue chip marketplace versus who they really want to be in conversation with. So I think, as it always does, that majority cultural blue chip environment is always a blessing in disguise, because it returns us back to the source, which is what you're saying, Kyrie. Like we need to be. Yeah, it's easy when you got the cheddar, you got $1 million, you go spend it. I mean, like, what did Puffy spend on the Carrie piece? 24 million.
21 mil. Yep.
Wow.
$21 million. He could have just gave Carrie $21 million. He could have just gave Carrie $21 million.
Yeah, and get another piece.
To make a piece. Make a piece.
Yes, go give me 21. Right. Why didn't he just commission Carrie Williams?
Why did he give
Carrie James Marshall to go make a piece for a minute? Instead he gave some white person $21 million and Carrie didn't see 2 cents.
Nothing. So there it is. It's like we got to be in this time. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying this is like just a shout out to Shawn, because Shawn is actually keeping me current. You know what I'm saying? Keeping me current. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. Also, it's not easy.
You say that, Brad, because I didn't think about it that way. But you know, it's interesting, going back to your question, Najee, like, I don't collect. I started collecting really out of, like, I don't consider myself a collector, you know, really. I guess I've collected a few pieces, but I was like, now that I consider myself an artist, which was a long time coming, you know, in the last 10 years or whatever, I really respect craft, you know. I respect what comes from intuition. You know, I respect what someone conceives and thinks about and meditates on, you know. And if I connect with that person's intuition and what they meditate on and what they choose to produce, then I that's just sharing in that. You know, it's also economic sharing, you know. But that's the reason I buy a piece. I'm really interested in queer artists now, you know, of color, mainly because I really think that, you know, to be a queer person of color, you're the strongest person on the planet. You know, things that you have to actually overcome. I mean, it's easy for us to walk around as men who present straight and masculine and who are straight or whatever in the world. But that queer brother who presents that like is the strongest person on the planet in the Black community. So the things that his outlier sort of perception and what he perceives and what he taps into, that's why Khalif is so interesting to me. Not obviously his work is beautiful, but I'm also like, wow, this brother, his presentation is non-binary, but his work is still very grounded in Black, regular Black, you know, in a way. So I find him very, very interesting, because he's not making these paintings of queer love, or he's not, you know, identifying himself necessarily. His work is not identifiably queer, like some artists' work is, you know. So I find that very unique. You know, his brother with got baby hair, you know, and high heels on, and he got a portrait of this elderly Black man sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, and that's a cold. That's a cold piece, man. Like when I got introduced to Khalif by a collector who since transitioned, Jim Nixon out of Philly, and Jim said, you got to see Khalif's work. And when I saw it, you know, I was amazed at that point and wanted to work with Khalif. And so this has been a little over 1.5 years that we've been working together. But brother, when I tell you the level of sophistication and how much he's grown in 1.5 years, and the sophistication of how his use of material, and when he's working these particular pieces, this brother is brilliant. I mean,
I already know.
Hey, and that piece that you got, Glenn, like that's the last Glenn, and then the mother with the two, I can't remember the title, with the two grandkids
Babies
on the hip. Those were the two most recent pieces. You got Glenn, and I was like, okay, we got several Khalifs in our collection, but I need to get this other one, because I'm like, dude, you don't know how hard it is for me to release work like this, bro. This work is so strong. It's hard for me because we're collectors too. To like, yo, do I want to share this with the world, or do I need to hold word? Because I believe in him so much, man, and what he's doing. Have you had a chance to unpack your piece? And Shawn, I know your piece is coming, right?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen. It's funny about the relationship between the Glenn piece and the piece I bought, because I was in Mexico City with an actually an ex of mine who we had been together for about 7 years, off and on. And we decided to take this vacation. She's from Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, and so we live in different countries. So we decided, let's go to Mexico City and see if there's still something between us, right?
Okay.
And she's also, the reason we were together is because her mind is crazy. The reason we were together all those years, her mind, her attention, her understanding of art is crazy. Like, she's one of the people. She's changed me. She's created me in many ways, in terms of my sense of style, everything. She's been very informative in creating who I am. And I showed her the pieces. I was like, I was interested in Glenn too. So I was like, this Glenn and then this other piece. And I was like, this Glenn piece though, man, it's Black Rest. It was so much of what Brad and Terrence and I talk about all the time. It just represented all of that. And I was like, and she was like, that's the one. That's the most beautiful one. And I was like, well, I had talked to Khalif about Selah.
Okay.
We had been in communication on Instagram. I was like, what's the deal with this piece? I'm fascinated about it. He's like, that's a very special piece to me. It's my brother. Now, I don't know the full story. I don't know if you know the story, but I know it's a portrait of his brother, but part of the brother's body is not physical. It's ghosted. Right? There's an extra arm that's ghosted. So I don't know where his brother is now in the physical world or not. But I want to, it's a delicate thing, but I'm going to reach out to him and get the whole story. But I bought that piece. I ended up buying Selah, even though everybody, even the person in the coffee shop in Mexico City, I showed them, because I would go there all the time. Which pieces you like? They were like, Glenn, that's the one, every single one. Because it's undeniable, right? But then I was like, I just got stuck on the story about his brother.
His pieces are highly personal. Like, he recently came into a treasure trove of old family photographs, and that's where Glenn comes from. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that's his uncle. And so he told me, he said, man, I got so much material now that I could create for the next 20 years based on all these family photographs. And so, dude, I mean, that.
Oh, I'm gonna give me another one.
Yeah, I mean, that's like
incredible.
Yeah, and that's funny. I haven't opened it yet. I cannot open it in my house because I have 3 children, and as soon as I open it up, like, I have to, like, the Emar I have or the AJ, whatever I have, they know their boundaries. So it's like I create all types of physical boundaries around art so they can move around it and not run into it and stuff. So it's like I don't have enough physical boundaries to create that with that piece yet. But I am going to open it. I'm probably going to open it over the weekend. But it's kind of funny. It's like, when you're not thinking about it in the blue chip way, you force. And again, I'm just kind of stating certain things, but I think it's a really important conversation because I think it's connected to us as filmmakers, right? And I think ultimately why it's significant for Shawn and I to be in like a little cohort right now collecting, because there's other folks around us who are also collecting. Amy's here in Baltimore with us. Like, we know all these cats. You know what I'm saying? One of our friends got Amy's. You know what I mean? She got AJ. She got stuff. She got Wangetchis. You know what I mean? So the thing is that when we and I think it's really important to kind of say two things. One is, when you're not collecting from the blue chip place, you're not really collecting anymore. You're just admiring, right? And you're continuing our due diligence to be inspired as filmmakers. So whether it's a $35 photo book from the Tate or a rare piece that I buy from Hiley that's like $750 that was a signed piece by whoever, you know what I'm saying, a book, or it's an $11,000 or $15,000 painting. I look at it all as teaching tools for me. You know what I'm saying? It's not about a come up. All that's speculative. I don't know what the marketplace is going to determine. So it's already risk. That's risky. That's too risky for me to just do that. So, and my mind doesn't work that way anyway. So I have to look at it all as inspiration. It's all helping me and not helping me individually be a better image maker. It's also what I said before. It's feeding my children, giving my children so much. So they can't say what I said, which is I didn't grow up in a house with a bunch of art. I want them to say I grew up in a house with a bunch of art, so they can be free to be artists. And I think it's really critical too, because, if I didn't have art making friends, like art friends, again, like I'm just now considering filmmaking or cinematography as an art form. If I didn't have art making friends, man, being a filmmaker would be a lonely, 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 lonely place, because I don't get to self-determine the way my artist friends get to self-determine. I don't have the same amount of sovereignty or autonomy as they do. I don't even have the competitive, if I wanted to just be a straight savage and just go get money, I don't even have that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make a percentage, like 0.01% of what everybody else around me makes on the set. So there's no way I can self-determine the way I want to self-determine spiritually and economically if I just stay as a filmmaker. And so I'm also trying to use these moments to inform how I operate in the film world. Like, my whole language around my body of work and what its monetary value is in the film space is totally right now informed by what my black art friends are making in the art world. Like, I don't care no more. Now I'm like, you're gonna pay me. You're gonna give me the money, because my friends,
you pay.
Half of y'all who are producers on these films be hollering at Kahinde, be hollering at all my friends, getting stuff made. And when they tell you it's $300, $400,000, y'all don't bat an eye, y'all go buy it. Yo, why you see me any differently? I'm an artist. I'm a black artist. I'm here making it happen for these movies. If there's no cinematographer, there's no film. It's just radio.
That's 100%.
We have friends now that are setting it straight. Like, if I'm the photographer shooting the editorial spread for Vogue, right, which is not like, you know what I'm saying? If I'm the photographer shooting editorials for Vogue, you giving me a $60,000, $40,000 buyout, $100,000 buyout for the shots I shot in the whole thing, the whole negative, all the files. So you're paying me $100,000. Why is it? And it's for Lancome, it's for Chanel. But why is it when I show up as a film director, right, which arguably sells more material, right, as a commercial product, as a moving image commercial product, sells more units. Why is it when I show up, I'm literally making 0.01% of what the photographer makes? You have to pay me the same amount. I guess what I'm saying is, like, the symbiotic relationship, the holistic relationship that this whole moment is creating. It's just like, it's so informative for me, and it's so important that I be humble with these cats like you, Najee, like Khalif, because I already know who I'm learning from. And honestly, it's a form of resistance, because it's the top secret pedagogy oracle that the rest of the cats who we're making films with don't have no idea. They still using the same old tools, the same old propositions around labor, black people's labor, slavery. Even my white friends are working on movies, they're slaves. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't have the relationship with art that we have. So for me, it's a very sacred relationship, because it tells me everything. It's my barometer on how I should move. So for me, I can't afford to be out of the conversation. I need to be getting inspired, talking, understanding, because it's going to help me be a better cinematographer, image maker, and also just a better community member that has bigger aspirations than basically working 9 to 5 on movie sets. Like, I want to build institutions. I can't build institutions with my friends if I don't have things that have a certain kind of worth in the marketplace that I can trade off in order to, like, get my cultural currency or my autonomy, so that I can do things in private and make stuff happen.
That's
so
it. That's
the gym. Y'all dropping nuggets, man.
Bro. You dropping nuggets. We just picking them joints up.
I'm happy to learn about I was really happy to learn about your company, man. You know, through Khalif. You know, I just literally, the Khalif thing was literally I found him on Instagram. It was like literally nothing else. You know, actually, I got to give a shout out to 2 people in terms of and what's informed in terms of my desire to collect, and also people who have put things in front of me. One, Elisa Blanc Moorhead, who's my best friend. You know, she's been collecting. You know, she had You know,
Hyundai from like
Hyundai
30 years.
Wild from 30 years ago, and you know, she just got her Mongechi, which she's been paying down for the last 15 years, and you know, but she always had work, and she always, you know, she was a lawyer too. Like when we were all struggling coming up, Lisa was like a young lawyer making money, you know, so she had the means young to collect. But she was the first person that I knew as a friend that was dropping, you know, thousands of dollars, you know, $5,000 for a painting, you know, back in the early 2000s. We might have been dropped. I wasn't a kid back then. And so I shout out to her for showing me that value. And then Akeem Mackenzie too, because Akeem, a lot of times Akeem will just inbox me Instagram caps because Akeem's a production designer. So he's always looking for visual art that he needs to sometimes incorporate into his production design, right? Into on the walls of his houses that he's building, or, you know. So I'm not sure if he sent me Khalif's work. He might have, or I went down a rabbit hole with something else he sent me, you know, and I found Khalif, and I just inboxed Khalif directly. I didn't even consider. I didn't see no gallery listed on his page. I was just like, yeah, I want to get this piece. I want a piece. Everything I wanted was gone. I wanted the Paul Robeson.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? That's the one I really wanted. Yeah, I wanted that Paul Robeson. I was like, ah! And I saw it was gone. I was like, okay, what else? I just want something from his brother. It was before the what's it called? His uncle's name?
Glenn.
It was before Glenn. You know what I mean? I didn't even see Glenn. And I was just like, I was just scanning through his work. And I was like, okay, this is the one. It was Selah, right? And I hit him up. And he was like, you got to talk to Najee. You know, he was like, hit up Najee. He'll let you know everything, price and everything. And I was like, Najee, okay, cool. And I was just like, okay. Then I saw your organization. I even never heard of it.
Yeah.
You know? That's a shame, you know?
No, man.
Used to it.
Yeah, but blessings on finding it. You know, I mean, we're 11 years in this project, man. And, you know, at some point I'd love to tell you more about, you know, BAIA and some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we're currently doing, you know, the new headquarters in Atlanta that we got coming. I mean, it's, you know, we've been making moves for a minute and ahead of the game. You know, a lot of the times, like we had the campaign back in 2012 called Do You Basel to get more Black people to be aware of what was happening and they doing Basel. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been really ahead of the curve and making moves. We're a very unique entity. You know, I'm thankful for, you know, my wife and the creator and everybody that supported the project. But, you know, we're doing, I think we got something really special with what we're doing. And it's a legacy piece, man. You know, it's truly a legacy piece. And I love to talk with y'all more about that, you know, at some other point. But Khalif, man, I that young brother, you know, I can't say enough. I'm gonna tell you the last piece I struggled with letting go. Let me take you this. Did you see the piece he did of Nina Simone, man?
That jump.
Woo, boy! You don't know.
I'm gonna walk out one of your pieces if I come.
Najee, we need some of you. That's the next one for Shawn. Again, Shawn was like, "Yo, after you check out Khalif," because I was like, "Yo, what should we get next?" And he was like, "Yo, you see Najee's work?" And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" I was like, "I'm like."
We didn't contextualize you as I just contextualized you as an art dealer. You know,
right.
Or someone I didn't really, you know, it didn't match. And I was like, wait a second, I saw you post something. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, no, man, I've been at it for a long time, and that's the thing that I try to share with my artists that I work with. I say, you know, I'm actually giving you what I wanted from a dealer. You know what I mean? In terms of the effort, you know, because I know what it takes to be successful. I know what it takes to, you know, the things you have to put in place in order to help facilitate, you know, these artist trajectories and getting them in shows, getting them in collections. And so, you know, those things that I want for myself, that's what I pour into the cats that I work with, you know? And so, yeah, man, I would love for y'all to come down. Matter of fact, y'all could get the special tour to the warehouse, you know, and everybody don't get that tour. So y'all, you know, just let me know when y'all ready.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, listen, I know we've been going at it for a minute. This is hopefully the first of only more to come, brothers. I certainly appreciate y'all time. It's been a real honor getting to know y'all.
Likewise.
And Yeah. And so lastly, man, if y'all got any parting thoughts on, art's impact on culture, you collecting, any message you want to give to some other collectors or people out there in the Black art and American community, just, please share any parting words, be cool.
I would just say, what they say Black people in America like the 17th largest economy in the world. You know what I'm saying? We spend money on $700-something billion on things that don't enhance our living, don't enhance our life, don't enhance our spiritual well-being, and that's, the amount of money we spend on frivolous things that are totally disposable, not sustainable, we could be spending on one another, and so whatever that looks like for you, you know what I mean? If purchasing art from an artist is not in that list of things that you do with your money, however you budget your money every month, every year, make that part of your checklist, you know what I'm saying? Because when you do that, you're checking so many boxes for us holistically, you know what I mean? You're supporting things that you just have no concept. We have no concept around, you know what I mean? Things that we cannot codify or monetize or even think about on the physical plane, you know what I mean? Things that our soul, the way our soul is fed by giving, it's, it's just, it's just so important, and, in Islam, giving dawah is like, that's, you have to give charity, you know what I'm saying? So it's part of our culture anyway, you know what I mean?
Giving is key, man. You nailed it. I've been trying to put that into my practice, as well, just like gift giving.
Gifting.
Obviously, when you purchase something, you're not giving a gift, but those kind of things in practice. But like supporting young Black artists, man, is a part of that practice. It's like, it's tithing. It's like, making sure you're circulating the money that you've been blessed with into the hands of people who are also creators. It's sharing resources.
Yeah. No doubt. That's it. We're gonna finish on that note, brothers. And y'all stay up and until we connect again on another diamond.
Yeah. All right, blood.
Take care.
Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.